candidate beat off competition from favourite Andrew Cuomo, the former New York governor who was attempting to make a political comeback from a sexual harassment scandal.
Tonight, we made history. In the words of Nelson Mandela, it always seems impossible until it is done. My friends, we have done it. I will be your Democratic nominee for the mayor of
The pro-Palestinian lawmaker and socialist Mamdani's popularity grew with sleekly produced social media videos which set out his vision of free buses, free childcare, new apartments and a higher minimum wage paid for by new taxes on the rich.
I am Donald Trump's worst nightmare as a progressive Muslim immigrant who actually fights for the things that I believe in. And the difference between myself and Andrew Cuomo is that my campaign is not funded by the very billionaires who put Donald Trump in D.C.
But why is there outrage in India? The left-wing figure is facing intense backlash after a series of controversial remarks and resurfaced tweets targeting PM Modi, the Hindu faith and India's democratic institutions.
Every single New Yorker deserves the same protections.
These remarks were met with sharp criticism from Indian leaders across party lines, like Congress leader Abhishek Manu Singhvi said that when Zohran Mamdani opens his mouth, Pakistan's PR team takes the day off. India doesn't need enemies with allies like him. BJP MP Kangana Ranaut said that he sounded more like Pakistani than any Indian. Whatever happened to his Hindu identity or bloodline, and now he is ready to wipe out Hinduism. Is this a case of mistaking radicalism for revolution, or marks a watershed moment for progressives and signals a shift in the city's political center of gravity? Only time will tell. Aditi Bhardwaj, NDTV.
It doesn't show that we will win.
So everyone's obsessed with this big viral story over filmmaker Meera Nair's son Zohran Mamdani, now poised to become the next mayor of New York City, the first Muslim mayor of New York City, a shock win that puts him right in the middle of Trump's America. And there are so many things being said. I'm joined now by Priyanka Deo, my NDTV colleague. She's an Indian who lives in the United States and has very sharp views on these matters, and I'm sure she does on Mamdani as well. Anish Kawante is national spokesperson of the NCP here in India. He has spent a lot of time abroad, and Anish, I notice on social media, is being called Bharat ka Mamdani, and I'm going to get into that in just a moment. But Priyanka, I want to kick it off with you. What are you making of A, Mamdani's win, and B, this huge interest in India beyond the obvious, beyond Meera Nair, beyond some of the baiting that we've seen? What are you making of this viral Mamdani moment?
Namaste. Thanks for having me on the show. I think that his campaign, for sure, keep in mind, he's not a winner yet. He still has to run for mayor. So if Cuomo decides to go as an independent, he faces quite a steep battle to come. But I think the campaign is definitely energized. But you have to see, Shiv, you have to see the campaign candidate for what they stand for, right? His platform, when you actually look at it, it actually faces very, very steep practical, fiscal, as well as political obstacles in the city of New York, right? More concerning to me is some of his ideological rigidity, right? His unwillingness to kind of engage constructively with opposing viewpoints. It's almost too radical to the point where he's freaking out some of the Democrats and some heavyweight Democrats. They're saying that it is too radical. He's giving a face to the Democrat Party that they do not want. They don't want this sort of radicalism and opposition, because this is why they lost the election. They lost the election to Donald Trump. They lost all of their swing states to Donald Trump. Yeah. So they're very wary. His own party is very, very wary of just how radical he is. Now, it's one thing to say things on TikTok, but it's also another thing to pass them in City Hall, right? It's kind of for example, as Aditi said a little bit before, New York is the financial capital of the world, right? It's a place of central global markets. It houses some of the world's most powerful financial institutions. It's also responsible for a very significant share of the US GDP. Now, leading a city of this stature is not just, it's not going to be on radical ideas.
Yeah.
Has he explained how he's going to raise the minimum wage? I mean, if people wanted to raise the minimum wage, I used to work at, a very, very low minimum wage jobs. I've worked there as well. I would love to see a higher minimum wage.
Okay.
I'd love to get paid
I'll
more.
come to some
How
of
are
his
you-
policy. I'll come to some of those policy planks in just a bit, Priyanka. But I want to bring Anish in on this. Anish, first of all, I want to kick it off by asking you, why are some people, I'm very curious to know why some people are labeling you India ka Zoran Mamdani. What's that about?
Zoran Mamdani and Mumbai ka Zoran Mamdani. I think it started off as a meme, and I'm very glad to be on the show with you today, Shiv, and funnily enough to discuss India ka Zoran Mamdani on my inaugural appearance on your NDTV show. I think it started off as a meme, and I think people were commenting on all these viral videos and going off of those and saying that Anish will be the next Zoran Mamdani in India. And I found that to be really funny because for two reasons, right? One is that India doesn't need a Zoran Mamdani. We've had Zoran Mamdanis long before, who've become mayors of some of our most incredible cities, who've come to political power at young ages, and who've disrupted the status quo in many ways, the same ways Zoran has. Now, the other reason India doesn't need a Zoran Mamdani is because so many of the policies he's spoken about, particularly in a city like Mumbai, have already been brought in decades ago. And so the fight that we're fighting in a city like Mumbai today is not to rework the wheel or bring about the progress that Zoran wants to bring about in New York, but to cement the progress we've already made.
Yeah.
He talks about grocery stores. In Mumbai, I grew up with Sahkari Bhandar. We talk about free buses. Which political party in India has not promised free buses today? He speaks about freezing the rent. We passed the Maharashtra Rent Control Act back in 1999. And we've got the Pagdi Tenants Action Committee and Pagdi Tenants' rights guaranteed by successive governments, regardless of which political party is in power. So the reality is that actually the leftmost candidate in the United States is probably a centrist in India.
True.
And will have to contend with a lot of socialist policy positions, ranging from minimum wages to worker protections that we've instituted a very long time ago, right from Ahilya Rangnekar to Yusuf Meher Ali, to people like George Fernandez in the very city I was born.
Yeah.
So for those reasons, I found that funny, but I think he's run an extraordinary campaign, and we have to give him that.
No doubt. Priyanka, one of the reasons why Zoran Mamdani has also lit up the Indian internet is because he's said many controversial things about India. He's attacked the government. He's attacked Modi in the past as well. And that's perhaps one of the reasons why there's a measure of adulation from a section of Indian audiences for the man. And like the both of you have said, India doesn't need a Zoran Mamdani.
Well, look, I mean, I don't think America needs a Mamdani either, because, let's face it, America has been built on capitalism. For better or for worse, it is a capitalist country. That's what it's known for. Now, that's the very essence of the US system. So it is impossible. We saw that with Kamala Harris and some of her debates when she went for president, right? Those policies do not pass. They don't work. It's like a complete overhaul. How do you go from a capitalist society to suddenly a communist society? He's openly said, I want to defund the police. I don't want the police.
He deleted that tweet then.
Yeah. He deleted it when he started running for mayor. So he's already contradicting himself, which means, are the things he's saying great on TikTok, but how's he actually going to do them, right?
Yeah.
And once they win, they don't do anything. That's also been historically seen in India, I guess all over the world, not just India.
But I wanna come in here, Priyanka,
Anish.
because I think of course I share some of your pessimism because we've seen this narrative play out. But you can't help but feel a sense of hope in seeing someone like Zoran raise the issues that he does, right? The reality is that in a city like Mumbai today, young Mumbaikars cannot afford a home or cannot even dream of affording a home. The reality is they cannot afford to move out of their homes, out of the homes that they've built with their families, that they cannot afford to get jobs where they are paid well enough. And so these are crises that are facing our communities today that we have to acknowledge. Does Zoran have all the right answers? I don't know. I think clearly these are policy questions in the US. I lived in New York for many years. And funnily enough, I saw Zoran's first campaign when he was running for state senate and had put out some incredible videos because his father used to be a professor at Columbia University where I used to study. So I've watched his campaign closely early on. I haven't really kept up with the specific policy angles, but I think he's hit a raw nerve for young people, not just in New York, but across the world.
Priyanka, you want to respond to that? I saw you shaking your head.
I do. Yep, I do. Just because, yes, Anish, I do agree. Okay, there was a big debate when Biden was running against Trump, when Kamala was running against Trump, right? There's a huge debate in America that why can't we have a younger person? Why can't, and the same I would say in India, right? India, 65% of the population is under 35 years old. Why can't we have more younger politicians, right? So I absolutely agree that politics needs to be diverse. It needs to be a bunch of different people. Ideologies also should be different. But the point is, Anish, you've lived in New York. You cannot socialize a capitalist powerhouse without breaking the engine that funds the program. So essentially, his policies, it's not in, you have to look at city to city, place to place, right? New York is not the same as New Delhi. There's a whole different set of problems, right? So his policies, I believe, risks kind of harming the very residents that it aims to help. Whereas it might work in India, it may not work in America. Furthermore, I think the guy at 33 years old running for a place like New York, I could see a really young mayor in Springfield, Illinois, right? With a population of 120,000. But New York, Anish, have you ever walked down Manhattan? You see the number of people there, right? A mayor also cannot kind of override constitutional and institutional frameworks unless they are political heavyweights. So it's very difficult, essentially. Whereas I do agree with you that we do need young people. We do need energetic people for that sense of hope. But we also, I mean, there's value in experience. There's value in having that experience in politics to push policies through as well. I think that for New York, as Trump also said, I believe that he's absolutely wrong for New York. Perhaps maybe he should try for a smaller place.
Anish, 30 seconds left. Last word to you.
My only statement here would be that under Trump's America, all gloves are off. The man has shown that he does not care about institutions. He's shown that he does not care about the frameworks upon which the US was built. And in some ways, what you're seeing with Zoran today is a reaction. He said all gloves are off, that I'll arrest Benjamin Netanyahu if he comes to New York. And I don't care about whether the US has signed the ICC or not. And in some ways, we have to reconcile ourselves.
That's not
no, I agree.
Material.
But I'm saying that this is the reality we find ourselves in. And all gloves are off in this mayoral election like they were in the presidential.
Priyanka and Anish, I'm out of time. I'd love to continue this, but I have a feeling we're going to be talking more about Zoran Mamdani in the days and the weeks ahead. Like Priyanka said, he hasn't won yet. There still is a general election to happen. So we'll be tracking this very closely. Safe to say, Zoran Mamdani is no longer Meera Nair's son. He's a man all by himself at this point of time. The global spotlight is on him and the Indian internet continues to be lit. Thanks, guys, for joining me here on this discussion on Zoran Mamdani. Meanwhile, it's the biggest ever fundraise. Let me repeat that. The biggest ever fundraise by an Indian private sector aerospace manufacturing company. Noida-based drone startup Rafe M Fiber has just raised a staggering $145 million from a global venture fund. It's huge, but it isn't surprising. The company just proved its mettle literally during Operation Sindoor, where drones, just like the ones you see on your screen, didn't just watch from above. They were actually firing missiles at Pakistani targets. And ever since, there's been a huge surge in the Indian military's interest in acquiring more of these systems from Indian companies. The army, for instance, has just ordered 450 suicide drones from a competitor and is all set to order hundreds more from this company that has just raised all this money. It's flush with funds and will be in a position to innovate and deliver even more capable drones to the military. Now, this is a watershed moment for India's private defense sector and for young India looking for these high-tech jobs. It signals that Indian innovation in unmanned systems isn't playing catch-up anymore. It's building its own playbook. And with China's drone dominance long unquestioned, this company's success is a clear shot across the skies. Indian drones have arrived, viewer, not just in Pakistan, but in the balance sheets of some of the biggest investors in the world. And I'm Very happy now to be joined by Vivek Mishra, who is the CEO and founder of Rafe M-Fiber. Vivek, big congratulations, $145 million fundraise, one of the biggest that we've seen in this country.
Thank you so much for inviting me and talking to me. So this is our Series B round where we have raised $100 million. And this was led by General Catalyst and a lot of our existing investors like Mr. Ramal Parekh and Think Investment. They pitched in this round as well. And we started almost a decade ago. And this was the major round that we did to support the increase in capacity for our research, for our manufacturing capacity and such.
And this fundraise of 145 million, Vivek, owing to the big surge in demand, I take it, after Operation Sindoor, in which some of your drones actually participated in live combat.
So the vision has been from the day one that we want to develop a very strong research and manufacturing capability in India. We have been silently working for around a decade to develop the capacity where we are able to not only do research on the system level, but we are doing research and manufacturing on a subsystem level, wherein each and every part of the drone, be it the structure, be it composites, be it electronics, wire harnesses, or even software, that is being designed and manufactured here. And we have a unique manufacturing capability where state-of-the-art manufacturing techniques along with research is in one roof. So for us, it's the same old vision. The value has increased wherein we are raising a larger amount compared to the last rounds. But this is towards the same vision that we have to be able to do more deep research into every field and focus on manufacturing and indigenous capabilities.
Vivek, can India beat the big gorilla in the room, China, when it comes to drone tech and the drone market? I'm sure this is a question that comes up very often. Can we beat China?
100%. And as you rightly pointed out, we have started. So that's the key word. So we need a very strong ecosystem for design, development, and manufacturing. That's the key. And again, the vision has been that. And we want to partner with everybody who aspires to do this. And we have started to build that capabilities wherein we are able to go deep into a particular field. I'll give you an example. So for one of our drones, for long endurances, we needed internal combustion engine.
Yeah.
Now, anything existing in the market would be either too expensive or too heavy or would not meet the performance. So we decided that we would design and manufacture internal combustion engine here. And we were able to do so. And this is India's first design of an internal combustion engine. And when we designed this, the goal was not to recreate anything, but we were able to reduce the size, we were able to reduce the weight, increase the performance, and at the same time, attune it to the requirement for the UAV and hence the user. So,
wow, yeah.
I feel like there is need of a lot of companies who can focus towards research, focus towards manufacturing so that we are able to come up with unique products for the unique requirements of India, that is.
And finally, given the huge number of young Indians who leave India for lack of high-tech job opportunities, I'm assuming that your plans now with this 145 million means that there will be a reverse brain drain. And you yourself are an example of the reverse brain drain. You came back to India to start this company.
100%. And I thought that only we use the word reverse brain drain, but I'm glad to see you use that as well. So we've been seeing this trend, and recently we sponsored a research-driven event in the US. And I was glad to talk to hundreds and hundreds of scientists who have been working there for 10, 15 years, or even the young scientists who are very excited to work in India and in these fields. So an advancement towards when everybody and most of the companies are working on these kind of things, I think they want to come back, and everybody enjoys working here. And the primary thing is that if you give people the kind of work that becomes an enjoyment, especially for engineers
So
and
true,
scientists, they would definitely want to come in, and we are seeing this. There are a lot of Indians who have come back from US, Europe, and are working with us. And not only Indians, we are proud to welcome other people as well who want
Of
to
course.
contribute towards this sector.
Well, what an incredible year you've had, Vivek, and your company, from participation in live combat and Operation Sindoor to the biggest fundraise in India's aerospace manufacturing sector, 145 million. Can't wait to see where you guys go with this. Congratulations once again, and thank you very much for being with me here on India Matters. That's a wrap on the show. And coming up next, it's The Last Word with Maria, where the big Bhangra brouhaha, where the Punjabi bros are at it over Diljit Dosanjh's new movie, which features a Pakistani actor. The who's who of the singing circuit have attacked Diljit. That's the big story next.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola, India's leading AI smartphone brand.
That's huge. That is a biggie. It's out there.
गोल्ड प्लस क्लियर ग्लास, पार हो या नियर, सब कुछ दिखे क्लियर।
भावनाओं को अभिव्यक्त करता हुआ कवि, एक पेंटिंग बनाता हुआ चित्रकार, सुरीले राग गाता हुआ एक गायक और फिल्म के रूप में दुनिया की हकीकत दिखाता हुआ एक फिल्मकार। सब चाहते हैं कि उन्हें एक मंच मिले जहां से उनकी उड़ान को दुनिया पहचान सके। एनडीटीवी क्रिएटर्स मंच एक ऐसा ही मंच है। आइए इस मचान पर स्वागत है, एक वक्त बिताएंगे एनडीटीवी क्रिएटर्स मंच पर।
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India, it matters to India, and it matters to me, and it matters to me.
India Matters with Shiv Aroor, only on NDTV 24/7.
News is not just headlines, it is what impacts you. And news should never be mistaken for noise. What matters is the reality. Accurate, in-depth, and with the right perspective. For over 20 years, I have been a journalist, and never has clarity mattered more than now. At Newsnight, we go beyond the surface. We dissect the details, challenge the narratives, and bring you the unparalleled clarity you deserve in a world clouded by misinformation. We are bold, we are direct. Newsnight, for the news in your interest. Only on NDTV 24/7.
Is your business future ready? Join the 13-week strategic ESG certification program for business sustainability and growth for CXO and business leaders by NDTV, Terry and Zenora. Master global ESG frameworks, gain real-world tools, and lead with impact. Starts July 13th. Enroll now and power your business with sustainability.
Do you really know the company you invest in? What is the real picture behind presentations and claims? Is the outlook as rosy as the company claims? Know your company. Powered by NDTV Profit Research.
Hello everyone, this is The Last Word and I'm Maria Shakil. Singer-actor Diljit Dosanjh has found himself at the center of controversy following the casting of Pakistani actress Hania Aamir in his upcoming Punjabi film Sardar Ji 3. Although the film was completed before the tragic Pahalgam terror attack on April 22nd, Diljit's team has continued promotion of the movie, especially sharing the trailer and related content, which has triggered an outrage online, with social media users questioning the timing of the film's publicity and raising concerns about the inclusion of a Pakistani talent in light of the current socio-political climate. And amidst this growing tension, singer Guru Randhawa took to X with a string of cryptic tweets that many have interpreted as veiled criticism of Diljit Dosanjh. While Guru did not mention any names, the timing and tone of his posts were enough to catch public attention. So why is the boycott brigade at it again? That's what I ask my guests who will be joining me shortly. But first up, a quick update of what happened today.
It was meant to be just another Punjabi comedy. But Sardar Ji 3 is now making headlines for all the wrong reasons. The trailer dropped earlier this week and sparked instant backlash. For featuring 4 Pakistani actors, including Hania Aamir.
Obviously,
What followed? Outrage. The film is set for release overseas, including Pakistan, on 27th of June. The film's timing and casting go against a rule the film industry has set post the Pahalgam attack. No collaborations with Pakistani artists whatsoever. Singer Mika Singh was among the first to publicly call out Diljit Dosanjh and demand an apology.
हम सभी लोग प्यार करते हैं. He is a great artist. We all respect him. We all love his music. But this time हमारे लिए देश पहले है. और अगर उनसे कोई गलती हो जाती है तो आके सॉरी बोल दें और अपना पोस्ट डिलीट कर दें.
Adding to that was a veiled dig from singer Guru Randhawa, who posted, "When the PR team is more talented than the talent itself, controversies become part of daily routine." Mika Singh agreed and said the situation needs sensitivity and respect for soldiers. Taking the matter further, the Federation of Western India's cine employees has written to Sunny Deol and Imtiaz Ali, asking them to reconsider working with Diljit. He's cast in Border 2 and a musical biopic with Imtiaz due in 2026. Diljit, promoting the film in London, broke his silence on the controversy. But not everyone is slamming Diljit. Singer Jasbir Jassi has spoken up in his support, calling the backlash hypocritical. He told NDTV,
80% गाने ਜਿਹੜੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਇੰਡਸਟਰੀ ਦੇ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਜਾਂ ਪਾਕਿਸਤਾਨ ਦੀਆਂ ਤਰਜ਼ਾਂ ਚੋਰੀ ਨੇ ਜਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਲਫ਼ਜ਼ ਚੋਰੀ ਨੇ ਜਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਪੂਰੇ ਗਾਣੇ ਹੀ ਚੋਰੀ ਨੇ ਸੋ ਦੋਹਰੇ ਮਾਪਦੰਡ ਕਿਉਂ ਫਿਰ ਜਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਪੂਰੇ ਗਾਣੇ ਬੰਦ ਕਰਾਓ ਇਦਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਵੀ ਇੱਕ ਆਰਟਿਸਟ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਤੇ ਉਹਦਾ ਵਿਰੋਧ ਕਰਨਾ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕਰ ਦਿੱਤਾ.
Sardar Ji 3 releases worldwide tomorrow, including Pakistan, but the debate around art, nationalism and timing isn't dying down anytime soon. Bureau Report, NDTV.
Shiv Singh is a singer. He joins me. We also have Girish Wankade, film trade analyst. Is it about good business when you have controversy of this nature? Mr. Wankade.
Not at all. This is going very sad now. The entire scenario is very derogatory, deteriorating. It is not good for anybody's career. And when the controversy especially goes with the patriotism, with the goodwill of the people, with the fan following, where there is a simple area where you have to take the side of our country. In that context, if the singer of a caliber of Diljit, if he has been talking against the Bollywood industry, against people who are talking about the Pakistani actors, this is not fair. We certainly believe that he has to be more docile, he has to be more accommodative, not at all.
Who has to be accommodative here, Girish? When you say it has to be accommodative,
of course, singer has to be more docile, accommodative. He has to be more mature in saying what he's going to say.
So you are calling Diljit Dosanjh immature?
Yeah.
How is he immature?
Because the
film is not shot in India, it is shot abroad, and Hania Mir is a damn good actor. If anything, knowing her popularity, the film might just do well.
That film may do well because there is a great Indian diaspora which watches this film outside India. But what about our country, where people are his huge fans? He has a great fan following, and where the mandate here of the FWICE is clear-cut that we won't allow any film which has got Pakistani actors. So it has to be honored. That is what my take is.
So you are of the opinion that Diljit Dosanjh should also not be cast? As we are seeing those letters being written to the film fraternity, that there should be no casting of Diljit Dosanjh going ahead as well. Why should he be punished? For choosing an actor who is very good with her work, who has given multiple blockbusters in Pakistan, for a diaspora audience which is in UK, US, she's popular. So coming together of these phenomenally talented individuals can deliver a magic.
Now that is one take where they are talented, but there are certain artists who are raising their voices against India. So when
but Diljit Dosanjh is not anti-Indian.
No,
he is as much a patriot as you are or I am.
But now that when the film fraternity or the film association is clear-cut that we won't allow the release of those films which features Pakistani actors, it has to be honored. If somebody is saying that, if a film committee is saying it, there are certain federations which are the apex bodies of film institutions. If that body has decided that we won't allow these films to be released which features Pakistani actors, at that moment we have to decide whether we should go with the film fraternity or we should go with the Pakistani actors. If he is chosen to go with the Pakistani actors, that is what I condemn.
So, Diljit Dosanjh, a popular Indian singer who has stood up for Indian values and culture, represents India, is an Indian brand ambassador on the global stage, has to choose between a Pakistani actor and India. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Of course, India's FWIC.
I mean, why should he be going through this test at all?
Because there are these actors who are all talking about, even after Pahalgam attack, these are the actors who are talking negative about India. There are certain actors who have tweeted against India. And that's why there is a film committee. FWICE is a committee which is Film Western India Cine Employees Association. It is the apex and very old body. The chairperson of this body has given a mandate, an embargo, that anybody who is talking against India, especially Pakistani actors, we won't allow their screening of those films.
Okay,
So
let me bring in
ultimately,
Gurashish as well. Gurashish, how do you look at this entire controversy? You're a singer yourself.
Ma'am, there are many ways to look about it, honestly. And as an artist, if you ask me, I feel that we had this debate last time also that why do we, combine art with politics? So if anything has happened earlier, and I truly mourn with the losses of the people, and how it all started from Pahalgam attacks. And, that's how one thing led to the other. But this is not the thing that led to it. So, we must realize that this is not a pile-up of the things that led to the war, and neither would this. But condemning this would definitely lead to more unpeace.
So, Gurashish, do you think the film fraternity is reacting too much, overreacting, if that word may be used here? Their reaction to say that Diljit has, violated the sanctity of, and is anti-national. He should be undergoing through, going through this test of nationalism. Is that all fair to ask?
Ma'am, even I would just say that when he was making the movie, I'm sure that scenario was in peace at that time. So definitely he must have not anticipated all of this, because he is not a fortune teller, or he's not someone who can predict the future of our countries, right?
Yes.
So I think that, condemning this right now is just being in the past. So, being in present would be to take this in a regulated manner. And I would say the government knows it very well how to regulate things, be it alcohol, be it any explicit movies, be it anything. So any prone areas where there are histories of Hindu-Muslim riots or anywhere, they can regulate this movie. But that would be my take on this.
Okay, so, there are a number of singers who are of the opinion that this act of casting a Pakistani actor in Hania Ameer is actually anti-national move by Diljit Dosanjh.
Well, ma'am, as I said,
is it anti-national to feature Pakistani actors, Pakistani talent?
Ma'am, I think this is emotion speaking, and I certainly value emotions. That all of this, what has happened, and as I said that I really mourn for everything that has been happening and that our world is seeing. But again, this is not that thing which is leading to it. So I would be there and sit right there and present right now. That let's talk about this present moment, and let's not involve and complicate things unnecessarily. Especially when it comes to art, because art is a form of entertainment, So if people are going to see a movie and believe, okay, you're seeing an actor or actress, oh, she's a Pakistani, oh my God, Pakistan. And then, what is the point of art, which is to carry you away from your, distress, your thoughts, which you have been indulged in into the whole day. So, it won't take you to a newer dimension where you are at peace, you would feel entertained anymore.
Point taken,
if we talk about this in this way.
Thank you so much for joining us, Girish and Gurashish, on The Last Word. Shifting focus to our second topic on the show tonight. Luxury labels have a long history of borrowing from India, quote unquote, borrowing. Sometimes they have called it a source of inspiration, and at other times not even bothering with that excuse. Over time, we have seen a clear pattern emerge. Indian fashion is either branded as something exotic, spiritual or earthy, or it's simply repurposed under a Western label with no trace of its actual roots. The latest in this entire controversy is that of humble Kolhapuri chappals. Everybody would have worn it at some stage. First the report, and then we ask on the show tonight, is this appropriation or is this appreciation? Let's watch this report.
Italian fashion powerhouse Prada has sparked outrage after featuring leather flat sandals unmistakably similar to Kolhapuri chappals in its Milan runway show priced at Rs 1.2 lakh. India's iconic heritage went global, but without a shout-out to its roots. Netizens have slammed it as cultural theft, and others see it as Indian artisans gaining global recognition. Speaking legally, experts feel an infringement case may not hold in court.
प्राडा कंपनी ने हमसे किसी भी प्रकार का कोई संपर्क किया नहीं है। इस बारे में हम कंपनी से संपर्क करके और हमारा जो भी लीगल एडवाइज़र से सलाह लेकर के उसके ऊपर में किस ढंग से काम किया जाए, क्या कार्रवाई कर सकते हैं, इस बारे में हम विचार कर रहे हैं।
While legally a case may not be airtight, the ethical breach is harder to ignore.
The question is, what did Prada showcase? Did it showcase Kolhapuris or did it showcase sandals? Prada has taken a view that these are sandals and flat sandals.
Right.
So there was no misrepresentation, according to me.
Right.
So legally it may be very difficult to claim a geographical indication or a breach of that in this case. A passing of action may be yes.
Kolhapuri chappals date back to the 12th century and earned a geographical indication tag in 2019. Handcrafted by artisan communities in Maharashtra, they carry deep cultural and historical value. From a social justice lens, some believe the controversy could bring long overdue recognition and better prices for cobblers and craftspeople.
प्राडा कंपनी ने रैंप वॉक के लिए जिस तरह से कोल्हापुरी चप्पल को बहुत ही अच्छी तरह से वहाँ जो कुछ प्रशंसा हुई है बहुत ही अच्छी तरह से, उसके लिए हम लोग जो क्लस्टर बना रहे हैं इस प्राडा कंपनी के कारण भी जो हमारा लेदर का जो कुछ इंडस्ट्री है उसके लिए ये बहुत फायदेमंद होगा।
खाली कोल्हापुर ब्रांड चप्पल का मुद्दा नहीं है, इसमें बहुत बड़ा स्कोप है। जो चप्पल है, पर्सेस है, जो हम लोग हमारे बहुत सारे उद्योग है जिससे ये जुड़ा हुआ है, तो मेरे ख्याल से इसका जब हमने ब्रांडिंग किया तो उसकी प्राइस हम भी बढ़ा सकते हैं।
The row has also caught the attention of Bollywood stars. Actor Sonakshi Sinha weighed in, calling out the price tag while rooting for local artisans.
I'd rather buy 1.2 lakh Kolhapuris in India, right? Yeah. Like as Indians, you feel very, very proud, which is great. But of course, the price points are a bit ridiculous.
Prada's Kolhapuri imitation has morphed into a national debate, blending heritage pride and government efforts to empower the craftsmen. While legal action remains uncertain, the question now is, will this controversy spark meaningful collaboration or remain just another luxury spectacle? Only time will tell. With Bureau Report, this is Radhika Ramaswamy for NDTV.
Indian heritage has become a mood board, reference for designer labels, but rarely with due credit. So the question is, do international fashion labels take Indian craft for granted? They remix, rebrand and repackage traditional Indian design, presenting it as their own, with zero mention of its origins. The same design sensibilities, the same textile legacy, and often the same embroidery techniques are served on a fancier platter. The latest example is that of Prada. So we ask on the show tonight, can Indian artisans legally stop brands like Prada? Can this be taken up legally? Can the government challenge it? Why did Prada call its leather sandals, in fact they called it leather sandals and not mention Kolhapur, the place from where these Kolhapuris actually originate? Does Prada's unacknowledged use violate the GI tag? Remember, the Kolhapuri chappals got GI tag in 2019. Can Indian artisans claim compensation? Why not? We ask that. And is this cultural appropriation dressed up as fashion? And how does Prada really justify that 1 lakh rupees price tag? And what does this really mean for the Indian artisans? The fact is, can Prada be sued? Perhaps yes. So let me bring in my guests tonight who are joining us. We have our in-house stylist here, right here in the studio. Mayank is joining us. We have Shaina NC, fashion designer, and Tara Deshpande, actor and writer. Shaina, I want you to wear the hat also of a Shiv Sena leader. The question is, it is your government in power. Kolhapur is in Maharashtra. Why is the government not taking this up?
So firstly, Maria, let me please say, I think it's really cool that we have the Kolhapuri chappal going world over. And as far as India is concerned, we've also set many of fashion trends. It's not always been the West that we have needed to ape. I'm glad that the West is aping Indian designs, or for that matter, seeking inspiration from the Kolhapuri chappal. I speak both as a fashion designer and as a member of the Shiv Sena. Our member of parliament, Dhaireshil Mane, who is from Hatkalangi, which is Kolhapur, was also saying that this would give so much livelihood to the people, the citizens of Kolhapur, which is one way of viewing it. Now, would you want to spend 1 lakh plus on a pair of Kolhapuri chappals? That is your choice. But my only limited submission is, whether it's Prada or any other international designers, the attribution to the cultural origins of the product, like a Make in India, Made in Kolhapur, etc., is something that we will definitely champion as a cause. And to collaborate various communities is also a must, because when you develop ethical guidelines, so to speak, which are ethnic in origin or traditional in designs, I think we need to talk about a cultural sustainability, which has been the need of the hour, and a lot of designers have been championing the cause of cultural sustainability, but at the same time, a fair compensation to the artisan. I mean, can you imagine that we make it for 300, 500 rupees and they just embellish it and sell it at 1 lakh plus? So I'm sure there'll be lots of legal experts who can intervene in this particular case, educate both the designers as well as the consumers, and keep in mind that there is a cultural sentiment, a cultural heritage, because you're right, in your initial opening, what you said about the Kolhapuri chappal and the artisans who are based out of there, the finesse with which they have created and emerged into a brand in the 20th century.
The Dior shararas that we know about, Mayank, you have a different view on this. Why do you see this as appreciation of Kolhapuris, not really appropriation, and some kind of stealing of idea of the artisans?
So first, I think it's very important to acknowledge that whatever Miuccia Prada, who is the designer and the creative director of Prada, whatever she does is instantly considered cool. So if she's looked at Indian Kolhapuri chappals and thought, oh, they're very interesting footwear, and decided to make an interpretation or rip off the design and put those in her collection, I think she's ready to make it cool again. And whatever Prada decides is considered cool. And I think the whole brouhaha about the price tag is having a very, how Marie Antoinette said, let them eat cake moment. So 1 lakh is too cheap for a Prada footwear. So I think Prada is, in a way, they should give the credit to the Indian artisans and where it's coming from. But also it is sort of putting Indian footwear on global map, which is fantastic.
Okay. Okay, so Tara Deshpande, that's a view of a stylist, and he is a fashion designer himself. So I think that's an alternate view. Perhaps we should consider that as well.
The GI tag that applies to the Kolhapuri chappal specifies that in order to call it a Kolhapuri chappal, it has to be produced in 6 or 7 districts which lie in Maharashtra as well as in Karnataka. If they are produced outside, you can't call it Kolhapuri. And they specify certain specific aspects to the design. So it's not just where it's produced, but it's also in part the design. Now, the problem that arises is that if it is produced outside of Kolhapur, even within India, which it is, but it is not called the Kolhapuri chappal, that is perfectly acceptable. The second issue here is that we have not copyrighted, trademarked, or positioned the design as intellectual property. So therefore, there is no legal protection for this particular kind of design. Now, Prada makes its footwear all over the world. Initially, when it started, Made in Italy was the only label it had. But now it's making stuff in Vietnam, it's making stuff in Cambodia, and it puts there made in Italy, made in Vietnam, or made in Cambodia. Now, if they had come to these 7 districts and tried to cut a deal, maybe they would have made a deal and they could have said made in India. And if they were unable to cut a deal, they would say, we won't call it Kolhapuri, we'll just call it a sandal. They're not even calling it a chappal, which is a very Indian word. So the issue here is that we should learn from this, where mojeris are concerned, where juttis are concerned, where the Jodhpur pant is concerned. These have no GI tags right now, and they are not the property is not intellectually protected whatsoever. So before this happens, this is a good wake-up call to take these very popular items and sort of cushion them a little bit with legal protections and with GI tags. But that being said, we also have to understand that there are designs that the Americans came up with, many years ago, like jeans that everybody is making today. The Chinese collar, just as our Band Gala and our Nehru jackets have been copied the world over, we've also, we make Chinese collars here all the time, but we don't regard it as appropriation. So I think that a lot of this has to do with how we look at things right now.
So, may I just do a quick recap for our viewers? How does it actually play out, in the sense that when it is about an appropriation of this nature by something which is very culturally rooted in other countries, do they make this about an IP case, or do they just see this as their product arriving at a global stage?
Fashion is fluid. Like any artistic medium, it's fluid, and there's a very thin line between inspiration and ripping off something. And we Indian designers have, we've been constantly inspired by European fashion or American fashion or Italian fashion, and so have they. It's very fluid. Chanel did this beautiful show back in 2011 where Karl Lagerfeld was there, called this Paris-Bombay collection. It was, I think, the most beautiful representation of the East meets West. I think we have to look at it in a way, yes, respect the artisans, respect the craft and the craft community, give them the credit, but also what a brilliant cocktail of two cultures coming together, two style statements coming together.
That's actually very well put. So, Shaina NC, could it have been, Prada, Kolhapur coming together? Perhaps more acceptable way, saying it Paris to Kolhapur, Kolhapur to Paris.
So I think, Maria, that happens is with a couple of ways. Firstly, if we educate the designers, obviously the consumer will also be educated, and the cultural heritage that we all talk about comes out. But I think what's most important is to have that kind of a tag which says made in India, which is something that the Prime Minister has always espoused and said that, make in India, made in India, etc. So that would be priority, and then get into the nitty-gritty of how the artisan is compensated. And I hope that in this particular case, the artisans do get their credit and their worth, because it's great to have international designers. I mean, if we didn't have a Prada, we wouldn't even be discussing Kolhapuri chappals today, because how else would it have reached the international platform? And as I said in my opening, I'm glad that the West seeks inspiration from the East, and India particularly, as we set the
besides
trends
seeking
world
inspiration,
over, especially in
the
this
credit
particular
has to be
case
given as well, Shaina. And the credit seems to be missing here.
Yes, that's
they
exactly
called it
what I
leather
said.
sandals rather
the
than
credit
Kolhapuris.
needs to be given. Yes, so that is something that the Indian government, and I'm sure lots of us, will champion that cause completely, because that's something that I think that irrespective needs to be fought on, because this is not just your product. You've aped, or rather you've sought inspiration and created it in our country, so we must get our due. And that's something that I think will happen organically. but how cool is it to see Kolhapuri chappals all over the world? How cool is it to see yoga all over the world? How cool is it to see India shining all over the world? That's the biggest takeaway.
Okay, Tara Deshpande, do you think we have to move beyond, emotional reaction to a situation such as this and make it more legal, make it about artisans and fighting for the artisans? There has to be a campaign or perhaps a movement.
Well, because, it's Indian and we are attached to it. I mean, if you grew up in Maharashtra, you wore these chappals all the time.
No, we wear
so
it
you
even
do
in
feel
Delhi.
a sense of proud. Okay.
Tara, we wear it even in
but
Delhi.
Are they called Kolhapuri then or just slippers?
No, it is called Kolhapuris only.
It's called. So that means they're coming from Kolhapur and from these 8 districts, because I know this design is made all over India and it's not necessarily sold as a Kolhapuri chappal. But I do believe that, if there had been an understanding between Prada and the artisans of these 6 or 7 districts, I think it would have been really, maybe something wonderful would have come of it. They would have benefited directly. But that hasn't happened, and I think it's a good idea to now start looking at all our indigenous designs and figuring out how they can be protected and what we would expect if somebody as big as Prada decided to reproduce them.
All right, Tara Deshpande and Shaina NC, really
or
appreciate
Maria,
your
even
time.
how they should be promoted.
Yes.
How they should be promoted world over.
Yes. So
Like, we waited for a Zandra Rhodes and a Sherry Blair to wear a sari. Just very short, Maria, we used to wait for a Sherry Blair, a Jemima Khan, a Liz Hurley to wear a sari and say, wow, I think the time has come for India to do it also. Why do we need international designers? We should take India
Absolutely.
abroad with a lot of competent
we should all be
designers
wearing
can.
Kolhapuris and celebrating it. And even when, those who travel abroad become your own brand ambassador. Thank you so much for joining us. Shaina NC and Tara Deshpande. That's all from me on this edition of The Last Word. And Vishnu is right here in the studio. And Vishnu, do you have a pair of Kolhapuri?
I do indeed. And I was just about to say the best way with the kurta pajama is Kolhapuri chappals, because they are just so comfortable and just so perfect. And no, I didn't buy it from Prada or Chanel or wherever else you would, I suspect, buy it from. Good evening, viewers. Welcome to Left, Right and Centre. I'm Vishnu Shov on the program today. It is an exciting day for those enthusiasts on the Indian space program. I'm one of them, and I must admit the choice of topic for me was quite easy. That's because we've got Shubhanshu Shukla, India's astronaut, up in the space station. That's him over there. That's him over there as well. And that's just great news, isn't it? Because we've got our space ambitions. We've got so much to hope for. We've got Gaganyaan, our own crewed mission that comes up in 2028. But today was a great moment when the 4 from the Crew Dragon craft finally emerged after it docked with the International Space Station. Shubhanshu Shukla is going to be there for 14 days with the rest of his crew. The experience that he gains will be invaluable. He will, of course, be telling other members of the Gaganyaan team what that's going to be all about. Now, he may not be flying on that Gaganyaan mission, chances are he won't, but it's a great occasion for an Indian. Remember, it's been 41 years since we've had an Indian on a space station. The last one, Rakesh Sharma, on the Soviet space station, Mir, 41 years back. So absolutely incredible. What we can do is give you this story on the incredible developments today.
लॉन्च कर रहे थे तो मेरे स्पेस सूट पे तिरंगा मेरे शोल्डर्स पे था.
Floating into the space station, stepping into history and legend. Air Force pilot Shubhanshu Shukla wrote a historic new chapter in the country's space exploration story, as he became the first Indian to float into the International Space Station. Gleaming with big smiles, Shubhanshu and his team of 4 astronauts entered the space station at about 6 p.m. Indian time after a 28-hour journey into space. Axiom 4's journey began at 12:01 p.m. on Wednesday. when SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket blasted off from Launch Complex 39A at the Kennedy Space Center in the United States. The 4-member crew were greeted by the existing 7-member crew at the International Space Station with big smiles, hugs, and welcome drinks.
So I am number 634. That's a privilege. No, but to be fair, it is a privilege to be amongst the few who have got the chance to see the Earth from a vantage point that I have been able to see now. It has been a wonderful ride. It has been great, and I was looking forward to come to space. It is something to look forward to as such. But the minute I entered the International Space Station and you guys, this crew, you just made me feel so welcome, as if you literally opened your doors, like your house doors for us. That's true. So, but it was fantastic. I feel even better. Whatever expectation I had of coming here, they were surpassed by the view, of course. That's the big part of it, but by you guys as well. So thank you so much. I think this was fantastic. This is wonderful, and I'm very, very confident that the next 14 days are going to be amazing, doing, as you said, advancing science and research and working together. Thank you so much.
The 4 then lined up for a photo op drinking liquids from a foil packet. Together, they all now make the Space 11 at the International Space Station. Earlier in the day, the capsule carrying the 4 astronauts docked at the space station at about 4 p.m. The fascinating process of docking and the crew entering the space station was beamed live across the world. Shukla's proud parents watched their son write history with tears in their eyes, prayers on their lips, and pride in their heart.
अब ये अंदर चले गए, अब कोई दिक्कत नहीं।
क्या कुछ कहना चाहेंगे? अब कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, बेहद खुश है। अब 14 दिन बाद उनका इंतजार रहेगा वापसी का।
14 वापसी का इंतजार रहेगा कि जल्दी से आए, जल्दी से मिले आके हम लोगों से।
ये बहुत ही अहम पड़ाव था, उसके लिए उसने जो है अच्छी तरह उसने मेहनत करके जो भी सक्सेस प्राप्त की है, उसके लिए हम बहुत खुश हैं और बच्चे पर गर्व है, हमें पूरा अपने बच्चे पर गर्व है।
The International Space Station will now be Shukla & Co.'s home for the next 14 days, where they will conduct experiments before returning to Earth.
Astronaut Group Captain Subhanshu Shukla created history for India, becoming the first Indian to visit the International Space Station. After a long journey, he will now spend 14 days at the International Space Station, conducting several experiments. But this is really the beginning of the Indo-US partnership in space. Beyond this, coming up is the NASA ISRO Synthetic Aperture Radar Satellite, the world's single most expensive Earth imaging satellite ever made. India and America exploring space together. And Group Captain Subhanshu Shukla lays the first firm steps for India's Gaganyaan program. With Vishnu Som in New Delhi, Pallav Bagla for NDTV.
All right, so Pallav with me. Pallav, we can all breathe.
Yes, we can, finally.
It's been several weeks,
yes.
3 weeks plus of delays. Then the mission went up and it worked after it blasted off. It was all flawless and so far it seems good. What is Subhanshu Shukla going to be doing on the International Space Station?
Right now he must be sleeping. His first night at the International Space Station to enjoy a sleep more than in the Crew Dragon. It would be an outstanding feeling to do that in microgravity. Not easy.
Yeah.
He was not feeling well. He also said that he was having a heavy head, which is normal. Space sickness is normal, but they settle down. He has a flight surgeon or a doctor attached to him, Dr. Punnaslok Biswal. He will take care of him. But now the heavy load and work begins.
Yeah.
They have over a 12.5-hour schedule for every day where every minute is chalked out. And he will be doing 7 India-specific experiments. They are fairly basic experiments. India is doing astrobiology for the first time, so we couldn't have expected very complicated ones. He's also going to be doing 5 human biology experiments which are NASA ISRO specific. The details of that have not been revealed at all.
Why?
I do not know why, but they have not been revealed. That's going to be done between NASA and ISRO. There are 2 outreach events and 1 talk with a VIP. I leave that to you. For you to guess.
For guessing
no
who
prizes
that is.
for guessing.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a packed 14-day. He will have to spend time. His body clock has been adjusted to what is called London time or Greenwich Mean Time, because the space station works with that.
I see.
All of them. Countries have decided they will work with Greenwich Mean Time. So his body clock in the quarantine itself was adjusted to that. And now really the hard work begins. But this is really the first step for India's Gaganyaan program, because he's going to bring back experience which will contribute to India's massive leap in space, which is to send an Indian from India. So he's learning, and he said these are the first firm steps for India's Gaganyaan. He's very young, he's 39. He's going to be bringing back lots of wisdom. Alongside, India did send Group Captain Prashant Balakrishnan Nair. He is 9 years as a backup. He's 9 years older. It was the oldest of the lot of the 4. So India chose correctly the oldest and the youngest. He was the backup. The youngest will give a lot of things, and Prashant Balakrishnan Nair also must have imbibed and soaked in everything. All of that will contribute to our human space flight program. End of the day, India wants to be ready. If there is ever a need for humans to leave Earth and colonize someplace, India should never be left behind.
Who will India's Gaganyatris be on Gaganyaan? Will it be Shubhanshu Shukla?
No,
given
see,
his experience, how does that process
see,
go?
it's a very tricky process. Being an astronaut is a very risky business. Group Captain Shukla has become an astronaut in less than 4 years after selection. Mostly astronauts spend about 8 to 10 years on Earth before they become astronauts and before they are able to fly. So within a year of getting his wings, he has become an astronaut. So on the Gaganyaan program, it could be one of these 4. It has to be one of these 4 because they have been trained, they are test pilots. All countries, whenever they do first-time vehicles, they send test pilots because they have the skills of navigating and managing issues if they happen. So it will be one of them. It could be any, it could be Angad, it could be Krish, it could be Prashant Balakrishnan Nair, it could be Group Captain Shukla, who could be, I'm sure at that time when we choose, it would be the right person.
It's just basic question. Gaganyaan first mission, is it just 1 astronaut?
Right now, what India has said, the capsule which is being developed for Gaganyaan can carry up to 3 astronauts. So India has said we'll send up to 3 astronauts for up to 1 week. That is the plan. But my own instinct is it could be 1 or 2, and it could be well for 3 days. Because you don't want to take a risk, but you don't want to send a single person also, because you need a buddy. So it could be 1 or 2, because the more people you have in the experimental vehicle, the higher the risk, but you need also a buddy. So this is just the beginning. Gaganyaan, as of now, the plan is in 2027 to have the first human space flight from Sriharikota, and then the plan is to have another crewed flight. And then the Bharatiya Antariksh Station is likely to come up, so there will be to and fro traffic, and then Indian on the moon. See, when Wing Commander Rakesh Sharma went up, it was a one-off mission. So Group Captain Ravish Malhotra never got a chance, whereas right now there are 4 candidates. They all have a chance to become astronauts sooner than later.
Yeah, if not in the first, then subsequent missions.
Yes, because it's now a full program, and it's going to continue for many years. And that's definite. So they will get an opportunity, and they're already starting the process of selecting a fresh crop of astronauts. And that could be non-test pilots, because by then you would have matured.
Should I apply?
Oh, you should, I'm sure.
All right, we'll leave it over there. Pallav and I might be headed to space at some stage or the other, be that as it may. We did have some wonderful conversations throughout the day with extraordinary astronauts. Let's take a look. So, fantastic day for so many people in India looking at the Indian space program and its future. We've got our first astronaut in an international space station in 41 years. The last time around, Rakesh Sharma was on Mir, the Soviet space station, all those decades back. Joining us now, Clayton Anderson and Dr. Ayman Jahangir. Thank you both very much for being with us. Clayton Anderson, in the context of India, a nation which has distinct space aspirations, just getting an astronaut on board the International Space Station, how do you see this to be important?
Well, having international participation in space is incredibly important. Shubhanshu, congratulations to him and congratulations to the nation of India for being able to successfully place him into orbit on the International Space Station. I'm extremely jealous and envious of the entire crew, not just Shubhanshu. But this is a big deal. And in order for the Earth to move away, or for humans to move away from the Earth and perhaps go to Mars, I think it will be a very international effort, a collaboration effort, if you will. The United States simply can't do it on its own. So congratulations to ISRO and all the folks in India.
Right. Dr. Jahangir, what we do know is that Shubhanshu Shukla had a touch of space sickness. What's that all about?
Yeah, so it's actually quite common for astronauts when they get into orbit to have a little space sickness, which is feeling a little nauseated and maybe even vomiting. Typically, it lasts about 3 days, and the reason it occurs is because what your eyes are seeing is different than what your inner ear is telling you. So here on gravity, which is what humans know and where we live, it all works well together. But when you get to space, that can be a little unusual for your body to adjust to. So it's not surprising, especially someone like Captain Shukla, who is an Air Force pilot who has lots and lots of experience flying. It's not uncommon. So I'm not surprised that happened, but he will be feeling better, I'm sure, pretty quickly.
But how do you fix that? Or it just goes away?
So there are yeah, it does just go away after a couple of days. Your body readjusts, but there are medications that astronauts do take when they get into space that can help. Just like if you were to get motion sickness on a boat, same kind of idea.
You know, Mr. Anderson, one of the most amazing parts of what we saw today was the high-resolution footage, every moment of Crew Dragon coming in and then docking with the International Space Station. That's something that's completely changed the entire space experience, hasn't it, for people around the world? Perhaps will add to enthusiasm for watchers around the world who would otherwise have thought space as being, it's been there, it's been happening for a while, been there, done that in a sense, but it adds a new dimension, I would suggest.
It does. And first, let me tell Shubhanshu that motion sickness and all that will go away. And I feel his pain. But with respect to the technology on board, in 2007, our cameras were nowhere near as good. Our video wasn't even high definition, which is why you don't see any much video from me in my time in space, because it was all low definition. I actually did the first high definition footage.
Oh, how interesting.
In 15 and 16. So, and the other cool thing for these guys is they're there during a solar maximum period, a high activity of solar particles and stuff hitting the magnetic field of the Earth. So they're getting to see beautiful auroras. They get to capture them with high definition video. They're taking pictures with cameras with much better lenses, with much higher pixels in the camera. I mean, it's very cool, and people do respond to that. It's bringing it home to the people of India, to the people of the United States. That's how you get support for your space program. That's how you're able to move forward and do more things.
Dr. Jahangir, are you enthusiastic about India's own space program? Because what we've got coming up in 2028 and is an entirely homegrown effort at getting an astronaut into space on an Indian rocket, on an Indian orbiter. That's a huge jump technology-wise, but they seem to be set to do it, and the tests seem to be progressing well.
I will say, you have to remember that only 3 countries in the world to date have had their own homegrown program. So for India to do it, which they're doing within the next 5 to 10 years, even talking about having a space station, is incredible. ISRO is making great strides. And Captain Shukla being up on the space station with this 2-week mission is going to gain a lot of experience of what it means to actually be in space that he can then bring back and inform the people of India and inform the scientists and the engineers at ISRO as about how to make both the spacecraft and the space station, more useful and beneficial for everyone. So this is vastly important. It is a 2-week mission. It's not a 6-month mission, but even in those 2 weeks, that experience that Captain Shukla is going to have is going to be immensely important for India going forward in their own program.
Mr. Addison, the status of India's Gaganyaan program, that's what we call our crewed mission. It is at a fairly advanced stage. We've got the rocket. We've made lots of progress in rocketry. It'll be a variation of the GSLV rocket. We've already done one pad abort test. They want to do another test at a higher altitude. And they are working at habitability of the capsule itself. And then they've got ambitions for a space station in 2035. And they seem to be getting there. Is there almost a sense of disbelief among people who you speak to that is India really doing this? And are they doing this at the cost at which they claim to be doing this? Because it's extremely expensive, besides being extremely difficult.
Well, Astro Clay talks about the 3 Ds of spaceflight, right? It's dangerous, it's difficult, and it costs dollars. And those are always something we need to keep in mind. Being safe, doing this safely is important. We've done it before. We did it back in the 60s in America. We're doing it again now, but we're doing it with better technology, which hopefully makes all of this safer for everyone. I would caution ISRO to just move forward slowly, carefully, smartly, and do the tests that are required to prove that it's going to be safe. Because if something bad happens to Elon, to Blue Origin, to ISRO, to any of these countries trying to launch humans into space, we run the risk of setting things way back, right? And that's what we don't want to have. We want to be safe going forward. We want to be smart because it is dangerous, it's difficult, and it costs a lot of dollars.
All right, great speaking to both of you. Thanks very much for being with us and sharing your thoughts on, on the Indian space program, Shubhanshu Shukla at the International Space Station, and a lot more. Thank you very much indeed.
I've been reporting on all issues, big and small, from Andhra Pradesh,
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India. It matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
India Matters with Shiv Aroor, only on NDTV 24/7. In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
The markets move fast.
And so should your portfolio. Expert insights, real-time stock picks.
Do I buy Ola?
Should I hold CDSL for the long term?
Buy, sell or hold.
The answers you need, straight from the experts.
Callers from India and across the world. Connect live, ask, decide and invest wisely.
Your portfolio, your future. Ask Profit.
There have been 4 alerts which have been sounded off here. In fact, what we can confirm is that one missile did hit a residential building in Beersheba. As I speak,
Joining us at this stage, Neil deGrasse Tyson, the American astrophysicist and writer. Mr. Tyson, thanks so much for being with us. We are
congratulations.
We are an emotional people, you know, we Indians, and we get a bit emotional, sometimes too emotional. But it is a big moment. You know, it's a moment of pride to see one of our countrymen up at the International Space Station. It's taken far too long. You know about our space ambitions. So could you reflect on what this means for a country with a developing space program?
Yeah, I can tell you without hesitation that an astronaut representing a country upon returning to the country is a hero. Let's just put it out there. They're a hero. People will line up to take photos with them, and it's the way I joke about it and I say, no one has ever given a parade for a robot, okay? But we do it for people. When one of our own does something heroic, is on an adventure and comes back to talk about it, that's important. And so another way to think about this, we should all look forward to the day where this is no longer interesting because it's happening so often. And when you reach that point, then you can truly declare yourselves to be a spacefaring nation, where it's just, I got another mission going up this week. Cool. We'll find out when they get back, you know, what they've been up to. And I want to say something quick about these images we've been seeing.
Yep.
I just want to remind you, everyone in that scene is weightless.
Yep.
So they could have had fun and had one of them completely upside down, alternating, and they would feel no different. So they all lined up just for the camera. I just want you to know that.
Yeah.
There is no up or down when you are weightless in orbit around the Earth.
You know, I think it's people around the world would have seen images and videos like this for so many years, and the quality of the video just keeps getting better. But I think, Mr. Tyson, the point which I'd like you to reflect on is the fact that there's nothing ordinary or easy or simple about human beings being in space, right? It is incredibly difficult. It was in the 60s, and it is now.
Yeah, so I cannot overstate the fact that at the end of the day, yes, it is rocket science. And the number of scientists and engineers and administrators and way back in there, the funding streams, all of this has to work. And when it doesn't work, it puts lives at risk. And so, fortunately, we've had many steps tested and retested, which has reduced the risk, but the risk is not zero. And astronauts have died, not only on the launch pad, but in space. And so, yes, we should never take any of this for granted. And there's the saying that we say in the United States, maybe other countries say it too, we say Godspeed to the astronauts. And, you know, the very word goodbye came from a time that's a contraction of God be with you, when you left the city walls. And it was very dangerous moving between the cities. So you looked for divine protection where it was most dangerous. Well, when our first astronaut, John Glenn, was in space, 1962, the headline was Godspeed, John Glenn. A dangerous thing to be traveling that fast on an adventure hardly tested by anyone. And so, yes, this emotion is still with us when we see our astronaut heroes take these voyages.
Dr. Neil, this is Pallav Bagla from the NDTV office. Welcome to the broadcast. There were many Godspeed moments for this mission. While they were still on the ground, there were several delays. And when astronaut Peggy Whitson came into the International Space Station, she spoke about the long quarantine. We had several issues. And then as the mission was lifting up, we also had 2 anxious moments with a fiber in the hatch, and then the wind file not uploading. What do you have to say for that? These were very anxious moments for this particular mission, and a 30-day quarantine, is that the longest you've ever heard of?
Maybe, but I mean, they're all professional. Remember that. So, and I'd rather, delay the mission than take the risk of not having it ever succeed. So we can be frustrated. What's the delay? Wait, fix the delay. No, take your time fixing the delay, because I don't want to raise the risk of harm that is already inherent in the entire operation. So yes, I think you were very close to this mission, and every little step. Every mission has little things that go wrong. Fortunately, much of the system, and thanks to engineers, have redundancies built in, so that if something goes wrong, there's a backup. Or if this goes wrong, we'll do without that for now, and maybe for the rest of the mission, we'll just compensate in other ways. So well-designed, risky missions will always have these backup scenarios, always in the interest of protecting human life.
Dr. Neil, in November, we complete 25 years of continuous human presence at the International Space Station. How exciting is that? And one more follow-up question for you. In 25 years, we've invested billions of dollars of taxpayer money on the International Space Station. Which is 1, 2, or 3 blockbuster research which has emerged from the space station?
Well, so I think the way you need to think about it, well, of the many ways to think about this, for me the most important is not listing the achievements or the scientific research and the results that come from it. You could do that, but I think there are other forces operating. For example, just the national pride of each country that has an astronaut represented on the space station. If I read correctly, each of the Polish astronaut, the Hungarian astronaut, and of course the Indian astronaut is their first time to the space station. And this is very important in the countries for which they are represented. And what I'm getting at is, that space exploration and launches and landings and space stations requires fluency in science, technology, engineering, and math, the STEM fields. If you're a kid wanting to know what should I do when I grow up, and you see this happening in space, it is a force of inspiration that rivals a force of nature unto itself, driving interest in the STEM fields. And the STEM fields are the engines of the future growth economies of the world. So an impact can be measured by other ways beyond just a checklist of activities that have been conducted. You can try to measure the force it has on a culture and on civilization. And I'll tell you this as well, that it's the STEM fields that stand the greatest chance of lifting a nation out of poverty, because this is where economies are born. This is where high-tech industries, quality jobs arrive. And when I think of space, I see it as a force of inspiration, not as a checklist to see what did you accomplish today.
Dr. Neil, India has a program going up to 2040 for which the government has invested a huge amount of money, which is to land an Indian on the moon by 2040. So the roadmap is quite clear for India. For you, sitting from your perch, that India will soon have its own human space program, an Indian space station, and land an Indian on the moon, and be a developed country by 2047. Does that sound good and exciting to you?
It's always good to have the goals. When President Kennedy said, we will land a man on the moon before the decade is out, we felt that we said, we don't want to make a liar out of him. Let's go ahead and do this. And by the way, I want to add to what you said. So it's not just an Indian space station and an Indian landing on the moon. You hinted at it, but I want to drive home. part of that goal is that it's completely top to bottom Indian-produced technologies. And so it's no longer a commercial venture from another country. It wouldn't be SpaceX or NASA. So you'd be doing it on your own, and that is another source of pride that I know we had when we were going into space, we, the United States. So I wish India well. I wish them luck. Sometimes you need a little bit of luck as well, but it's less luck and more brilliance in the scientists and engineers that are attempting to make that happen.
Neil deGrasse Tyson, wonderful speaking to you, and I agree entirely. It is Indian engineering at the end of the day, which really has to come of age. In many senses it has, but as you push the boundaries even further, there's a lot more to achieve, and I think we're really making a lot of progress there.
सज गया है मंच, शिरकत करेंगे जाने माने कलाकार। NDTV का क्रिएटर्स मंच है आपके लिए तैयार। शामिल होंगे लेजेंडरी राइटर जावेद अख्तर, अपनी कविताओं से युवाओं के दिलों पर राज करने वाले कवि कुमार विश्वास, समय से परे की फिल्म बनाने वाले डायरेक्टर इम्तियाज अली और बेस्ट सेलिंग राइटर चेतन भगत। यहाँ फन और एंटरटेनमेंट मिलेगा, साहित्य से नई रचनाएं, नई सोच, नया मंच। NDTV लाया है आपके लिए क्रिएटर्स मंच। आप भी जुड़ें NDTV नेटवर्क पर।
The last 1 month, if you see, the share prices of Denzol Engineering has fallen more than 58%.
Why are the rating firms calling the debt payments as default?
We have two credible credit rating agencies on March 4th coming and downgrading the stock to D.
Statements are consistently being proven wrong, and transactions are being taken place which are different from what they were originally pictured to be.
The company claimed it would roll out 6,400 electric vehicles. But what it has rolled out is a shocking scam. Funds meant for the project were funneled allegedly back to the promoters, the Junkie brothers. What did the money buy? Not EVs, of course, but a lavish flat in Gurgaon's luxurious DLF Carmelias.
भावनाओं को अभिव्यक्त करता हुआ कवि, एक पेंटिंग बनाता हुआ चित्रकार, सुरीले राग गाता हुआ एक गायक और फिल्म के रूप में दुनिया की हकीकत दिखाता हुआ एक फिल्मकार। सब चाहते हैं कि उन्हें एक मंच मिले जहां से उनकी उड़ान को दुनिया पहचान सके। NDTV क्रिएटर्स मंच एक ऐसा ही मंच है। आइए इस मचान पर स्वागत है।
West Asia, it appears, might be coming to an end, but it appears that the ceasefire between Israel and Iran is extremely tenuous, and the overall terms of the agreement are still unclear. The impact of this has been lingering, not just for millions of people across the region, but also potentially for economic reasons and on economic grounds. It's one of two major wars or major conflicts which persist across the world. Martin Wolf is one of the finest economists in the world in terms of his thinking on economic ideas. I've had the privilege of speaking to him a couple of times in the last few years, and he's here in New Delhi, which is all the more reason to speak to him now. Thank you very much for being with us.
It's a pleasure.
It's a difficult situation around the world in the Middle East, and who knows what's going to finally happen. If things don't resolve, what is the potential economic impact in terms of oil flows?
Well, the first thing to stress is I don't know, and we really don't know. This is an incredibly uncertain situation. At the moment, with what's happened so far, as I can see, the impact is going to be quite modest, well within the range of the sort of mild turbulence we get in energy markets, and certainly not of huge global significance. It's important to remember the oil economy isn't as important as it used to be 50 years ago or so during the first and second oil shocks, so it shouldn't matter that much unless the shock to prices is enormous. So the question ultimately, and actually I wrote about this in a column published immediately after the terrorist assault from Hamas in Israel a couple of years ago, a bit less, that it depends exactly on what you're talking about. Could it spread to the Gulf? Could it mean real attacks on oil fields, and particularly the closure of the Straits of Hormuz, through which an enormous proportion of the world's oil, about 30% or so, goes? At the moment, it seems very clear that everybody's aware of the risk. The US is imposing a lot of pressure to prevent that happening. Yeah. It's been, I think, pretty clear to Iran that if it did this, it would attract the ire of all the world's powers. The Chinese will be immensely upset. Obviously, the Gulf states will be upset. The Americans will be furious. So I think the Iranians are being very careful not to do that. The Israelis certainly don't want to be blamed for this. So strangely for me, I'm actually relatively optimistic that it will be contained short of that. But I would always stress one can never be sure.
Just in terms of the broader situation between Israel and Iran, how do you assess where this has gone? Has anybody won or has anybody lost?
Well, first of all, I'm not an expert in geopolitics, and I always stress this. I have colleagues who are, and I do the geoeconomics, so I've discussed this. I think that the Israeli view would be that they have, in the short run, won in the sense that they penetrated Iran's defenses. They've degraded them significantly. They have killed a great number of people they regard as mortal enemies, and they have weakened Iran's medium-term position, not just short-term, in terms of its ability to obtain nuclear weapons. So they, I think, will feel very strongly, certainly Bibi Netanyahu will feel this has been a success. And if you look at it in the wider context, a couple of years ago, they seemed to be surrounded by Iran's proxies, very strong position in Syria, Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, and that all seems to have gone away. So from Israel's point of view, the military actions are bound to look successful. The Americans, too, will probably be quite happy with the claim, though it's challenged even by their own intelligence operations, that they have damaged, if not destroyed, at least much of Iran's nuclear potential. But is this an enduring outcome? Very unlikely. Iran is still there. Iran is probably even more determined. I see no obvious reason to suspect that the regime will collapse. It seems far more likely that the Revolutionary Guard will become the dominant element. That could go on for decades. Will they try to get another rebuild the nuclear program? I would guess yes, because they will see that's the way to be secure. Will that lead to more confrontations with Israel and the US? Quite likely. So I suspect it's in no way definitive. While Israel and the US have sort of got their short-term aims, at least Israel has, this is not going to resolve this conflict, which requires a general peace in the Middle East, which does look further away than ever.
Some would suggest that a peaceful solution to Russia and Ukraine is perhaps nowhere in sight either at this stage. That has a profound economic impact in so many levels. The price of food grain, for example, which was coming out of Ukraine, that continues to be impacted. Another strand for us in India, which is important, of course, is fuel flows. We continue to import oil from Russia, and our foreign minister always gets asked that, look, why are you doing this? And Russia is the aggressor. But he keeps on pressing home the one point that, look, we have to think about India first. We have a huge population, a huge set of requirements in terms of energy. Is that an argument that is increasingly accepted?
Well, I think at least, even if it's not accepted, and I remember appearing on a television program in India shortly after the initial war, if it's not accepted, it's tolerated. The Western powers have recognized from the beginning that India has its own interests. It's an extremely important player strategically, including for the West, and they don't want a confrontation over this. So it's accepted. And this is even more obvious now when the US and the Europeans are really, to some degree, at loggerheads. The US doesn't have any clear strategy towards the resolution of this war. Trump's boast that he would settle it within the first day is obviously proven, as we expected, to be absurd. I don't know what they're trying to do there. The Europeans want to sustain Ukraine. Will that work? How will the war resolve itself? We don't know the answers to any of these questions. So India can, I think, be perfectly comfortable pursuing the policy it is. But my suspicion is that the war will continue without a resolution. Russia isn't going to win in the sense of collapsing Ukraine completely. At the same time, Ukraine has no chance of defeating Russia. How could it? It's just a horrible running sore and a tragedy for the people of Ukraine. But I think it looks to me as though, as it were, the geopolitical significance, the points you made, isn't going to get any worse. I can't see why it was. Now, the terrible truth about the world that we live in is we can live with ongoing wars in which lots of people are killed because we can live with them. And that's increasingly what both these conflicts look like to me, though the Iran-Israel one is more sensitive because the oil flows are more sensitive. So the outcome is, it seems to be just another of these ongoing conflicts, which we tend not to think about very much. Look at Sudan.
No, I know. It's a huge problem over there. I wanted to ask you a little bit about trade equations between America and the rest of the world. Obviously, there's a great deal of pressure. America is dealing with different countries. Some would suggest in different ways. There's this particular equation with China and talks in one direction. Talks with India as well. Do you believe that there will be a comprehensive India-US trade deal which would potentially resolve some of the concerns which primarily America seems to have?
Well, first of all, I think the American trade policy that is now being pursued is ludicrous, intellectually insupportable, and it will not achieve the result it wants, which is a massive reduction in all its external deficits, both bilateral and overall, because that's an intellectual error. It's not due to trade policy, it's due to macroeconomic imbalances, which I've discussed in recent columns, and Mr. Trump simply doesn't get this. It is so in some fundamental way, this trade policy will fail to achieve its objectives, and it's certainly not going to reindustrialize America. It might increase employment in manufacturing in America by a couple of percentage points. It will still continue to decline. So it's really nonsense. And one must add, it's completely illegal under the World Trade Organization rules, so it's behaving like a rogue power. Now, given that, and India must deal with the realities, it does seem to me more likely that they will reach a good deal with India than pretty well anywhere else, except they've got a pretty good deal with the UK. That's true. And that Mr. Trump takes these things very personally. He rather likes the UK. He likes the UK royal family. He's a bit snobbish about that. And he obviously likes Mr. Modi and regards India as a friendly country. And he would like to reach a deal. And the Americans don't, at least at the moment, really worry about Indian competition and competitiveness. They don't think of India as anything like China. And of course, 10 years from now, I've said this before, 10 or 20 years from now, they may, if India is successful, view it very differently. But now they look at it favorably. So I assume there will be a deal. I have no idea what sort of deal it will be, but I imagine it will be an agreement which allows relatively liberal trade on both sides, creates some opportunities for India vis-a-vis other countries, because clearly the barriers to exports from China will be higher. That will be very friendly. Maybe even the barriers to Vietnam will be higher. So this could be an important opportunity for India. But I should qualify, there's a history here. Mr. Trump has reached deals before. In his first term, he reached a very good deal, he himself said, with Mexico and Canada. And the first thing he did this time is blow it up. So you can't trust it. And that's important because in trade policy, you want the deal to be so secure that business will invest large amounts of money to exploit the opportunities. And it's unlikely that most businesses will feel that is really secure because Mr. Trump can withdraw what he has delivered. He doesn't worry very much about what he's signed because he lives in the day.
That's true. You briefly mentioned Europe and America. I was at the Munich Security Conference where America, essentially J.D. Vance pulled the rug under the feet of Europe, redefined the nature of NATO and the equation, the military equation between America and Europe. One of the big demands of the US president is that GDP spending or spending on defense as a percentage of GDP across Europe needs to go up substantially, that America will no longer necessarily protect Europe against Russia in quite the same way as it's done in the past. How is the UK, France, Italy, and let's say Germany placed? How are they placed in actually doing that? To the extent that America, as a military player in Europe, could actually see a reduced role?
Well, this is a huge question. First of all this has been quite clearly a huge shock to the Europeans. Not completely a surprise, but the extent of it was a surprise. The hostility, particularly from J.D. Vance, was certainly striking. We never expected him to come and basically support the extreme right. Many Europeans regard as neo-fascists, in my view, correctly. So that's all a big shock. And then we saw the extraordinary film of their confrontation with Mr. Zelensky in the White House. So these are huge shocks. Now they're working very hard to reach a new deal. The NATO meeting at the moment, very recently. And people are falling over themselves to say we're going to raise defense spending to 5% of GDP. I don't believe that will ever happen. It's higher than the US has. I think that's a fantasy. I don't know where the money will come from. But certainly people are aware that they are going to have to rely on themselves. They're going to have to build up their militaries. And the most striking case is Germany, which has basically scrapped its restriction on debt. It's going all out to borrow. And Germany is potentially the most powerful military entity for obvious reasons in size, economic development. And of course, it is important to stress, if we leave aside nuclear weapons, which Russia has a gigantic arsenal which dates from Soviet days, which the Europeans will not match. But in other areas, if you look at the European economy, it's vastly bigger than the Russian economy, much more sophisticated. It should really be quite comfortable to match the conventional weaponry of Russia. If you look that Ukraine can hold the Russian army and it's killed vast numbers of Russians, I think the Europeans can feel plausibly confident that as long as the nuclear umbrella survives, and that's the key thing from America, the conventional forces can be balanced perfectly well by the Europeans in a few years. Sure. And I think the Europeans have sort of got that, and I expect it to happen. So if the Americans allow 4 or 5 years, this will work. But one should emphasize, and we had an article in the FT just today by Lloyd Austin, the former Secretary of Defense under Mr. Biden, former general. He said, it will be very inefficient for us all to go on our own. The cooperation and using our complementary skills between the US and Europe is important for both of us, and we shouldn't give that up. Does Mr. Trump understand that? Does this administration understand that? That's a very big question. But basically, I think in conventional terms, over time, the Europeans can unquestionably achieve a reasonable balance against Russia.
A final question, since you are here in India, we have huge aspirations of becoming a developed nation by 2047. Some say that's unrealistic. The government says that no, one way or the other, it is going to happen. We have a huge demographic dividend, which is a good thing. We've got a young population. But I think the larger question is on whether we are optimally using that young population. And the reason I say so is because a young population has to be skilled and reskilled. The nature of the economy is changing. I won't ask you a hackneyed question on AI and growth. I will, however, ask you about the importance of reskilling to meet India's ambitions of becoming a developed nation.
Well, it's a very, very good question. So I delivered a lecture here based on an article I wrote for a book in honor of a very dear friend of mine, Shankaracharya. So I So my answer to this, I do think it is plausible, nothing is certain, that by 1947 India will be a great power by any definition.
2047.
2047, sorry. What did I say? 1947. Sorry, I apologize. Slip of the tongue. 2047, it will be a superpower. I expect it to be very clearly the third largest economy in the world and a great power. That should happen, simply the combination of numbers with growth continuing at about the average, which is very much consistent of 6% a year or so, which India's had over the last 3 decades. That would not, in my calculations, there are differences. What is a developed country? There are different definitions. In my definitions, that wouldn't really make India a developed nation. But that's a matter of division. It would be an upper middle income country, but it would be a considerably bigger economy and more sophisticated than today. So does it matter? It wouldn't be precisely a developed country as I define it? Not really. Now, the question you're asking is, well, 2 questions. One, can that be sustained? 6% a year for the next 20, 25 years? And what would... And the answer to that is, it is possible. India has always done a pretty poor job of skilling its population, but it still has got skilled, and there are so many Indians, and it is still so relatively poor that it seems to me, and there are so many more getting educated, that you will create, in all probability, sufficiently more skilled people to drive that sort of growth from this starting point, still relatively low, for another 25 years. You don't have to do much better than you have done before, though you do have to keep on skilling people. Of course, if you do more than you've done before, and as you suggest, do really better in skilling your whole and reskilling your population, providing through your firms and through the government, really higher levels of education and continuous skilling, you could do even better. And I've always felt India could grow at 8% a year. And if that happened, you would definitely become developed. So, but 6% or so seems to me manageable with a continuation of the past performance, which obviously means that you continue to pull more and more women into the labor force, you got them more and more skilled, you extend education, high quality education throughout the whole labor force, and that would mean continued improvement.
Martin Wolf, wonderful to see you in Delhi, and thank you very much for joining us here on NDTV. Thank you very much indeed.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
India Matters with Shiv Aroor, only on NDTV 24/7.
News is not just headlines, it is what impacts you. And news should never be mistaken for noise. What matters is the reality. Accurate, in-depth, and with the right perspective. For over 20 years, I have been a journalist, and never has clarity mattered more than now. At Newsnight, we go beyond the surface. We dissect the details, challenge the narratives, and bring you the unparalleled clarity you deserve in a world clouded by misinformation. We are bold, we are direct. Newsnight, for the news in your interest. Only on NDTV 24/7.
Is your business future ready? Join the 13-week strategic ESG certification program for business sustainability and growth for CXO and business leaders by NDTV, Terry and Zenora. Master global ESG frameworks, gain real-world tools, and lead with impact. Starts July 13th. Enroll now and power your business with sustainability.
Do you really know the company you invest in? What is the real picture behind presentations and claims? Is the outlook as rosy as the company claims? Know Your Company, powered by NDTV Profit Research, shines a light on the biggest stock market movers.
I've been reporting on all issues big and small from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of maximum city is infectious. I'm bringing that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti, also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
India's IT capital is always bustling, a city full of startups, stories and surprises. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India. It matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
India Matters with Shiv Aroor, only on NDTV 24/7.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and
of Lord Jagannath amidst tight and unprecedented security. Watch every bit of the car festival with me, Manogya Loiwal, only on NDTV.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening. You're watching the News Night and I'm Deepthi Sachdeva. Today we are talking of a fascinating story. This is about the Iranian Supreme Leader who vanished. He vanished during a war. Remember this. There was not a whisper, there was not a photograph, not even a prayer. But then, suddenly after 9 days of global silence, the man has finally surfaced and he has spoken today. But not from a podium, but from a teleprompter. Ayatollah Khamenei has appeared in